Hey, hockey fans, get ready for the incredible story of Roger Crozier, the 5'8" dynamo from Bracebridge, Ontario, who took the NHL by storm. Born in 1942, as the 12th of 14 kids, Roger learned to stop pucks on frozen ponds, rocking hand-me-down pads and a fearless attitude. From leading the St. Catharines Teepees to a Memorial Cup, to shining with the Detroit Red Wings and Buffalo Sabres, he redefined goaltending with his revolutionary butterfly style. Despite battling ulcers and serious health issues, Roger nabbed the Calder Trophy, the Conn Smythe Trophy, and stole hearts in the legendary 1975 Fog Game. With 200 NHL wins and a legacy that still shapes modern goaltending, his journey is pure inspiration. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we dive into how this small-town hero became a hockey icon, leaving a mark on Detroit, Buffalo, and the game we love. Roger Allen Crozier was born on March 16, 1942, in the small town of Bracebridge, Ontario, a picturesque community in the Muskoka region where dense pine forests and shimmering lakes define the landscape. As the 12th of 14 children in a working-class family, Roger grew up in a home filled with noise, love, and the constant hum of activity. His father, Albert Crozier, worked long hours as a laborer, often at the local lumber mill or on construction crews, while his mother, Evelyn, managed the household, raising a brood that stretched their modest resources to the limit. The Crozier home was a simple wooden structure on the edge of town, heated by a wood stove that required constant tending. In winter, the backyard transformed into a makeshift rink, where the siblings skated until their toes went numb and their breath hung in the air like tiny clouds. Roger was a quiet, wiry child, often lost in the shuffle of his boisterous siblings. His slight frame and reserved demeanor made him an unlikely candidate for athletic stardom, yet he possessed a spark that ignited on the ice. At age 6, he discovered his calling when an older brother, tired of playing goal, handed him a pair of oversized pads. The pads, worn and patched, were comically large, tied to Roger's legs with twine scavenged from the garage. His blocker, a homemade contraption of leather scraps and a wooden plank, was more enthusiasm than craftsmanship, but it served its purpose. Armed with a stick nearly as tall as he was, Roger took to the frozen ponds of Bracebridge with a determination that belied his size. Night after night, under the silver glow of a Canadian moon, he faced barrages of pucks from his siblings and neighborhood kids, learning to anticipate, react, and dive with a fearlessness that stunned onlookers. Locals began calling him that little goalie, a nickname that stuck as he became a fixture on the town's frozen surfaces. In Bracebridge, hockey was more than a pastime. It was the pulse of the community. The town's rinks, carved from ponds and maintained by volunteers, were gathering places where rivalries were born and legends were made. Roger's childhood revolved around these icy arenas and the crackling radio broadcasts of NHL games, which the family huddled around in their cramped living room. He idolized goaltenders like Terry Sawchuk and Johnny Bower, studying their movements in grainy newsreels shown at the local cinema during intermissions of junior games. School, where Roger was an average student, took a back seat to hockey. The pond was his true classroom, where he mastered the geometry of angles and the physics of puck deflection. By age 10, he was competing in organized youth leagues, often against boys 2 or 3 years older. His parents, despite their financial strain, supported his passion. Evelyn sewed up torn pads and gloves, while Albert occasionally skipped a shift to watch Roger play, cheering from the snow-dusted bleachers. These early years shaped Roger's resilience, teaching him to thrive under pressure and to transform limitations, his small stature, his family's poverty, into strengths. Roger's childhood wasn't without challenges. The Crozier household operated on a tight budget, and meals were simple, often consisting of potatoes, bread, and whatever meat was on sale. Hand-me-down clothes and shared bedrooms were the norm, and Roger learned early to make do with what he had. His slight build made him a target for teasing, but he deflected it with a quiet confidence that emerged fully on the ice. Injuries were common, bruises from errant pucks, sprains from diving onto uneven ice. But Roger never complained. He saw pain as part of the game, a price worth paying for the thrill of stopping a shot. By his early teens, he was already known in Bracebridge as a prodigy, a boy who could turn a game with a single save. His childhood, steeped in community, sacrifice, and an unrelenting love for hockey, laid the foundation for a career that would redefine goaltending. By age 14, Roger's talent had outgrown the makeshift rinks of Bracebridge. In 1956, he earned a spot on the Bracebridge Bears, the town's senior club in the Intermediate C League, a rough-and-tumble circuit populated by grown men, lumberjacks, mill workers, and local toughs who played with the intensity of barroom brawlers. At barely 5 feet 6 inches and light enough to be lifted by a stiff wind, Roger was an anomaly in the crease. Yet, he held his own, facing slapshots from players twice his age and 4 times his experience. His reflexes were lightning fast, his positioning almost clairvoyant. Opponents, frustrated by his ability to anticipate their moves, muttered about the kid who seemed to bend the laws of physics, folding his body into impossible shapes to block shots. Teammates marveled at his composure, noting how he never flinched even when a 200-pound forward barreled toward the net. In 1959, the Bears won a district championship, a triumph that put Roger on the radar of scouts from the Ontario Hockey Association, OHA, a breeding ground for NHL talent. The St. Catharines Teepees, a junior team affiliated with the Chicago Blackhawks, invited the 16-year-old to try out. Leaving Bracebridge was a wrenching decision for Roger, who had never ventured far from home. With his parents' blessing and a duffel bag stuffed with patched equipment, he boarded a bus for St. Catharines, a gritty factory town 200 miles south. At 5 feet 8 inches and under 140 pounds, he looked like a misplaced schoolboy among the hulking forwards and defensemen. But in the crease, he was a revelation. His unorthodox style, dropping to his knees, splaying his legs wide, and using his gloves like a second set of eyes, baffled shooters accustomed to upright, stationary goalies. Coaches initially tried to correct his technique, urging him to stand tall like traditional netminders. Roger, politely but firmly, ignored them, trusting the instincts that had carried him this far. In 1960, Roger backstopped the Teepees to the Memorial Cup, Canada's prestigious junior hockey championship. His performance, stonewalling opponents with sprawling saves and snatching pucks from midair, earned him accolades as a pint-sized prodigy. Over 2 seasons with the Teepees, he developed the butterfly style that would later revolutionize goaltending. The technique, born of necessity due to his short stature, allowed him to cover the lower net with precision while maintaining mobility. Traditionalists in the OHA scoffed, calling it reckless and unorthodox. But Roger's results silenced critics. By 1962, he left junior hockey with a Memorial Cup ring, a contract with the Chicago Blackhawks organization, and a reputation that stretched across Ontario. These years were not without hardship. The grueling schedule of junior hockey, long bus rides through snowstorms, diner meals of greasy burgers, and relentless competition, took a toll on Roger's health. At 17, he developed his first ulcer, a searing pain that felt like a hot coal in his stomach. Doctors prescribed rest, milk, and a bland diet, but Roger, determined to prove himself, pushed through the discomfort. The ulcer became a constant companion, flaring up during tense games or sleepless nights. He also faced the emotional strain of being away from his family, writing letters home to Bracebridge to stay connected. Despite these challenges, Roger's passion for hockey never wavered. He saw every game as a chance to refine his craft, every save as a step toward the NHL. His junior career was a crucible, forging a goaltender who combined acrobatic skill with an iron will. In 1963, the Detroit Red Wings acquired Roger's rights in a trade with the Chicago Blackhawks, who hesitated to bet on a 5'8" goaltender in the bruising Original Six era, where physicality often trumped finesse. Roger debuted for Detroit on November 28, 1963, at Olympia Stadium, just 6 days after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy cast a pall over North America. The somber mood in the stands lifted as Roger took the crease, his frenetic energy and lightning-fast glove hand electrifying the crowd. He moved like a coiled spring, darting side to side, diving for pucks with a recklessness that bordered on artistry. Detroit fans, accustomed to grizzled veterans, embraced the young goaltender as a new kind of hero. The 1964-65 season was Rogers' breakout. At just 22, he started all 70 regular season games, a grueling feat never repeated in NHL history. Facing a relentless barrage of shots from legends like Bobby Hull and Frank Mahovlich, he posted 40 wins and 6 shutouts, leading the league in both categories. His butterfly style, still a novelty, confounded opponents who expected traditional stand-up goaltending. Rogers' performance earned him the Calder Trophy as the NHL's top rookie and a first-team All-Star selection, a rare double honor for a goaltender. Off the ice, he was a quiet presence in the Red Wings locker room, preferring to let his play speak for him. Teammates respected his work ethic and his ability to stay calm under pressure, even as Detroit's high-octane offense leaned heavily on his heroics in net. The 1966 Stanley Cup Final against the Montreal Canadiens was Rogers' defining moment. Detroit, underdogs against a Canadiens team stacked with stars like Jean Béliveau, pushed the series to 6 games. Roger was a one-man fortress, diving for rebounds, snaring breakaways, and stopping shots that seemed destined for the net. His acrobatic saves, glove snatches at impossible angles, sprawling blocks on point-blank attempts, left fans breathless. Though Detroit lost the series, Rogers' performance was so dominant that he became the first player from a losing team to win the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP. Fans chanted his name as he skated off the ice, and even Montreal players tipped their sticks in respect. At 24, Roger had etched his name into hockey history. Behind the glory, Rogers' health was unraveling. A second ulcer joined the first, and pancreatitis, a painful inflammation of the pancreas, began to sap his energy. The physical toll of goaltending, collisions with pucks traveling 90 miles per hour, constant crouching and diving, exacerbated his conditions. By 1967, the weight of Detroit's expectations and his own relentless drive pushed him into a darker struggle, depression. The city saw him as an invincible warrior, but Roger felt like a man battling his own body and mind. In the spring of 1967, he vanished from the team for 6 weeks, seeking treatment in a hospital and retreating to Bracebridge to reconnect with his roots. Rumors swirled that he might never return. Yet, driven by a stubborn refusal to quit, Roger rejoined the Red Wings, determined to reclaim his place in the crease. In 1970, the NHL expanded, and Punch Imlach, the gravel-voiced general manager of the new Buffalo Sabres, saw an opportunity. During the expansion draft, he selected Roger from Detroit, ignoring skeptics who questioned why a fledgling franchise would pin its hopes on a goaltender with a history of health issues. Imlach, a master strategist, believed Rogers' talent and tenacity could anchor the Sabres. On October 10, 1970, Roger debuted in Pittsburgh, making 35 saves in a 2-1 victory that gave Buffalo its first NHL win. 4 days later, in the Sabres' home opener at Buffalo's Memorial Auditorium, he faced a staggering 53 shots, a testament to both his endurance and the team's porous defense. After the game, Roger delivered a quote that became a mantra for the young franchise. "We win together, we lose together, but nobody's allowed to quit." Fans, hungry for a hero, adopted him as their own. The 1971-72 season tested Rogers' limits. The Sabres, still finding their footing, allowed an onslaught of shots, and Roger faced an NHL record 2,190 over the season. His butterfly style, knees splayed, torso forward, gloves poised, turned the crease into a fortress, earning him team MVP honors. Off the ice, he battled gallbladder issues and relied on antacids to quell the fire in his stomach. Teammates recall him popping pills in the locker room, wincing, but never complaining. Rogers' resilience inspired the Sabres, who began to gel as a unit, blending young talent like Gilbert Perreault with Rogers' veteran presence. In 1973, Roger led Buffalo to their first playoff berth, a milestone that electrified the city. The Memorial Auditorium, known as the Aud, shook with the roars of fans who saw Roger as the heart of the team. His white fiberglass mask, introduced late in his career and painted with minimalist flair, became an icon. The 1975 Stanley Cup Final against the Philadelphia Flyers, a team known for its brutal Broad Street Bullies tactics, was Rogers' last great stage. Game 3, on May 20th, became the legendary Fog Game. A heat wave and poor rink ventilation blanketed the ice in thick fog, reducing visibility to near zero. Players skated through a milky haze, and the game paused repeatedly to clear the ice. Roger, exhausted from the series' physical toll, was on the bench but pulled his mask down and entered mid-game. With cowbells clanging and the crowd leaning forward as if to guide him, he made save after save, leading Buffalo to a 5-4 overtime win. Though the Sabres lost the series in 6 games, Rogers' performance in the Fog Game cemented his status as a Buffalo folk hero. By 1977, injuries and illness had taken their toll. Rogers' body, battered by years of diving and collisions, could no longer withstand the NHL's demands. Traded to the Washington Capitals, he played just 3 games before retiring at 35. His NHL career spanned 14 seasons, 518 regular season games, and 200 wins, a remarkable tally for a goaltender who battled chronic health issues. In Washington, Roger transitioned to the front office, serving as interim general manager and even coaching a single game in 1981. His hockey acumen remained sharp, and in 1982, he played a key role in drafting Scott Stevens, a defenseman who would become a Hall of Famer and a cornerstone of the Capitals' future. In 1983, Roger left hockey for an unexpected second act, a career in banking at MBNA in Wilmington, Delaware. Trading the crease for a cubicle, he brought the same intensity to his new role, rising to executive vice president. His leadership style, calm, strategic, and relentless, mirrored his goaltending. Colleagues admired his ability to navigate crises with the same poise he once showed facing a breakaway. Despite ongoing health challenges, including a third ulcer, Roger thrived in the corporate world, overseeing global facilities and managing teams with a quiet authority. He rarely spoke of his hockey past, but coworkers who learned of his career marveled at the contrast between the soft-spoken executive and the fearless goaltender who had once stared down the NHL's best. On January 11, 1996, Roger succumbed to pancreatic cancer at age 53, leaving behind his wife, Janice, and their daughters, Katie and Brooke. His death sent ripples through the hockey world. Memorial services in Detroit and Buffalo overflowed with fans clutching faded ticket stubs and teammates who described him as a quiet warrior. In Detroit, Red Wings alumni recounted his 1966 playoff heroics. In Buffalo, Sabres fans shared stories of the Fog Game, their voices thick with pride. A hand-drawn sign at a Buffalo memorial read, "Butterflies live forever," a nod to the goaltending style Roger pioneered. In 2000, the NHL honored Roger with the Roger Crozier Saving Grace Award, given annually to the goaltender with the season's best save percentage. Underwritten by MBNA, the award ran for 8 years, ensuring Roger's name echoed in arenas each spring. In 1980, the Sabres inducted him into their Hall of Fame, and in 2009, he was enshrined in the Greater Buffalo Sports Hall of Fame. At the induction gala, an elderly fan recounted the Fog Game with vivid detail. "You couldn't see the puck, but Roger saw everything. We leaned left with every save, like we were steering him through the haze." The room fell silent, then erupted in applause. Roger's legacy transcends statistics. His butterfly style, once dismissed as heresy, is now a cornerstone of modern goaltending, taught to every aspiring netminder. His story, a 5'8" goaltender plagued by ulcers yet unstoppable in the crease, resonates as a testament to resilience. He turned vulnerabilities into strengths, proving that courage is measured not in inches but in the willingness to dive headfirst into the impossible. In Buffalo, where his banner hangs in KeyBank Center, fans still speak of him with reverence. In Delaware, where he quietly reshaped a corporate landscape, colleagues remember a leader who carried the heart of a goaltender. Roger Crozier, the fearless little goalie from Bracebridge, taught a sport, and those who watched him, to dream bigger, fight harder, and never quit.